Hi, this is Carla King with the Author Friendly Podcast, a consumer's guide for self-publishers in audio format.
The header tags are actually really useful. So if you have like a clean, and I mean unstyled for the most part, Word document, and you just make the chapter headings H1s, then you can even use the one-click Word import. So all you have to do is go to import your Word document, and Pressbooks will automatically, using those H1s, recognize what's a chapter, split it into chapters in the interface, and then, I mean, most of your job is done.
Hello, authors, editors, designers, marketers, and all you other good folks helping books get published. This week, I'm talking with Elizabeth Mays, the Director of Sales and Marketing at Pressbooks. Pressbooks is a really easy-to-use formatting and design tool for your books with a set of themes you can choose from to create a book interior very quickly. It's cloud-based, and it's based on WordPress, and it creates all the formats you need to publish. PDF for print, EPUB, Mobi, and a bunch of other more geeky formats. It creates your books from a single source, so you're ready to publish using Amazon, Ingram Spark, Smashwords, and all the other publishing and distribution tools. Liz and I talk about word styles, themes, imports, customization, publishing to your website, creating lead magnets, creating books from blogs, and adding interactive elements like audio and video, which I didn't know about until our conversation, and I fully intend to use those. So far, I've used Pressbooks a lot. I use it to collaborate, to publish, to update books like The Consumer's Guide for Self-Publishers, which you already know about. And I recommend it a lot. And I hope you enjoy learning about it in this conversation between Liz and I. Especially listen for a special offer, too, for 25% off Pressbooks during our conversation. You'll find the code for that. And check the authorfriendly.com website for links and show notes. Hi, Liz. Welcome to the Author Friendly Podcast.
Hi, Carla. Thanks for having me.
Well, I can't wait to share Pressbooks with our listeners. So can we start by you just giving us pressbooks.com in a nutshell? And for those listeners who want to follow along, you can find it there, pressbooks.com.
Pressbooks.com is a really simple to use book formatting platform that you can use to get the outputs you need to put your book into Ingram Spark, CreateSpace, or Kindle Direct Publishing, or anywhere else you might want to publish your book.
I just have to say right up front, I love it. I use it all the time. It's based on WordPress. So WordPress users are going to love this. And you also have a huge library of how-to videos on your YouTube channel.
We do, and that's at YouTube/Pressbooks.
So how much does the platform cost to use?
It's actually free to try, but if you like the output and you'd like to go forward and publish, what you would want to do is upgrade to remove the watermarks, and that is $19.99 if you want to remove the watermarks from the ebook files, which are the EPUB and the Mobi, and it's $99 if you'd like to remove them also from the print-on-demand files.
One thing I do love about Pressbooks is that it outputs to PDF for print and also to EPUB for iTunes and Kobo and Nook, Mobi for Kindle. And you've also got a bunch of other, for the geeky people among us, you have a lot of other formats.
Absolutely. So if you wanted to, there are some open formats. You could export into HTML. You could export into XML, open document. There's a couple different things you can do if you were so inclined.
Where would I use an HTML book? How would I do that? Do I just insert it into my website?
You know, I doubt that indie authors are using that feature very often, but I think people wanting to maybe archive a copy of something, maybe they want to put it up on a website or put up pieces, maybe a chapter on a website somewhere else. But truthfully, I'm not sure how much use that gets from our indie authors.
Yeah, only the very, very geeky ones. I'd love to just talk about what I do with Pressbooks because I think I've used it in every which way. It's been out since 2011? It was founded. And I also want you to talk about the templates that you have for users to pre-format their books.
Right. So basically, Pressbooks has about 20 different themes that you can apply just as you would do inside of a WordPress blog, for instance. And they're themes for books. And each one has a different look, a different CSS underneath that will style the, ebook versions for you, that will style the web book versions if you're using it, and that will style the PDF versions. And all of those different formats have different requirements and different things you would expect them to look like. And so the themes do all that work for you. And what's great about Pressbooks is it's creating your book files from a single source. So you put in your content and you press a button to export in the formats that you choose. And then Pressbooks will turn your book into those formats in a design that you've chosen from the themes.
Right. Just to be clear, so it looks like for those authors who have a blog, and everybody I think should have a WordPress blog, so hopefully you're familiar with the interface. You can actually download your blog files and upload them to Pressbooks to make a book, which is something I've done several times.
It's a fantastic feature because what it means is you can actually blog a book. So let's say you put together a plan to write a book this year, and each week you tick off a chapter on your blog. You could export that and then import the XML into Pressbooks. And then it would put it into chapters for you, and you would be able to export it in those book formats.
And you can play with the themes, like there's a science fiction theme, and I think there's an Emily Bronte theme, and children's book theme, and kind of horror and mystery themes. You can just goof around with those. There are themes that have color elements in them, although this is not a great tool for color. Well, it's a good tool for color, of course, but not for complex like cookbooks and photography books with lots of formatting, correct?
I think cookbooks might be okay, but children's books, coffee table books, photo-driven books, anything where you need granular control of image placement, that's the point at which I usually tell people they need a more conventional book formatting tool, and that Pressbooks is not the right tool for them. So if your design depends heavily on images and the placement of those images and being able to control that, that's something that Pressbooks isn't really built for.
Right, and that's called fixed layout or fixed format.
Exactly.
Most of us are writing, wordy or text-based books like novels, and I write a lot of memoir with some pictures, but not much. And I want to mention that once you get your content into Pressbooks, how do you put like the front matter and the back matter and all the table of contents and copyright page and all that in it?
Well, you don't have to do very much. There's a page where you can enter all your book's metadata, the author, the title, etc. And Pressbooks will actually take all that information you've put in the system and format it appropriately. You can also add sections like an introduction if you want to in the front matter, about the publisher in the back matter. That's up to you, but Pressbooks knows where to put those in the book order, which is what's so magical about it. So you don't need to know anything about formatting a book, and the system will do everything for you. And you just don't need to know those things.
Yeah, it's nice. So you can add front matter, add back matter, acknowledgments, etc. Your ISBNs, which I really urge people to buy their own ISBNs or get them from your country of origin. They're really expensive in the US, but everywhere else they seem to be low cost and free, just as an aside. I'll tell you what I use it for. Okay, Liz, it's awesome. So I first used it to download a bunch of blog posts that I had categorized, and categorization of blog posts is really important. So I categorized blog posts from the wine country, like Napa and Sonoma and California, and I uploaded it to Pressbooks to make a little travel guidebook for the wine country. And I use it as a lead magnet on my travel website, mycarlaking.com travel website. And so it was super easy to put together. There are actually a lot of beautiful pictures in that. I chose to just make it an ebook, so it's available I give people both EPUB and Mobi so they can read it on their devices or on their computer.
That sounds like a cool project.
It was, and it was so easy. And everybody these days, you need a lead magnet, an email, newsletter, sign up incentive. And these kinds of things, whether they're short stories or informational, are so important.
Definitely. And I like what you said about categorizing the blog posts, because one thing you don't want to do is just try to take your whole blog, the whole thing, it could be thousands of blog posts. You're not going to be able to import all of that at once into Pressbooks. But if you're just pulling out a category and you've got a reasonable number of blog posts, then that's a much more manageable thing.
It is. And if people don't know about categories and keywords for WordPress or other kinds of blogging software, you can just go to WordPress. I'm not sure if it's .org or .com, or just search what are categories on WordPress and start applying them. And they're almost like chapters and subsections, right?
I would consider them almost like parts in Pressbooks, but again, it would depend on the book.
The other thing I used it for was a book that I collaborated with a couple of other authors. So 3 of us were in the Pressbooks cloud-based editing tool all at the same time, doing writing and editing and putting in pictures, and we were able to work on it all in the same time and get it done really, really fast.
That's another great feature. So you can let other people into your book, and you might want to use that to add a collaborator or several, or you could also add an editor or someone who's considering your book for publication elsewhere. It's up to you who you want to add.
Yeah, and also these days, a lot of authors are getting together in similar genres and creating anthologies to co-promote as well. So I think Pressbooks is an excellent tool for that.
I would think that would be a very cool use case.
And finally, I want to say that I use it for my consumer's guide for self-publishers, which is a free book that I give away via my email newsletter, and I just link to for my subscribers. That you're in it. I just keep track of all of the self-publishing tools and services that I know that are out there. That I don't like them all, but most of them I'm recommending, and some of them I'm warning against. But it's such a big job, and if I had it on my desktop in a Word document, I would be updating it and creating an EPUB and a Mobi every week, and it just became so unwieldy that I just put it up on Pressbook, and it's published on your site as a Pressbooks book, in HTML, where people can look at it and they can actually comment on each chapter and say, well, I had a better experience with this product, or you should also include that product. So I love that comments form and allowing people to just go right to the book itself.
And the webbook is really popular, particularly with our educational users, but I can really see a use case like you've described for indie authors, because you can kind of tease your book. You can maybe put part of it public on the web and send people to that link to look at it and see what it's all about. You could send them to the book cover page and make maybe a sample chapter live, or you could make the whole thing live. We actually have some books online that we've used the webbook for as well, and we really like that capability to just send people to a link, like here is the thing. And you mentioned the revising capability, which I think is one of the cool things about Pressbooks too, is whenever you feel like, oh, I want to reissue this book, which I feel like a lot, all you have to do is like go back, log back in, go to that book, make a couple changes. Maybe you're updating a sentence or a paragraph. Maybe you're like changing a typo someone found, and then instantly press export again, and it's all going to be updated. You don't have to like go back to someone and, ask them, how long will it take you to revise my file? They don't have to reflow the file. You don't have to, pay again for revisions. You don't have to go through that whole process and the waiting on someone. You just can do it instantly. And I think that that's a real advantage. That's one of the biggest, I think, attributes of Pressbooks in my mind.
I think so too. And it's also great that you can embed links in the book itself. I was trying to distribute my consumer's guide, but I have links to Amazon, I have links to Smashwords, I have links to Kobo, I have links to all of the different vendors, and the different vendors prohibit links to other vendors. Like Amazon doesn't like it if you link to Smashwords or if you link to Kobo within your book. And I was just like, really? So I was forced to find a different solution for that. Yeah.
Huh.
Rules,
Very
rules, rules.
Yes. Oh my goodness. You can also embed video now. You can, if there's a link to a YouTube video or something on the web book, that's a great way to make a really interactive book. It's not just text, but there's something interactive for people to play with as well.
So how does that work? So I didn't know that. I'd love to do that. So do you just grab the embed code from YouTube or Vimeo? What do you do?
No, you actually, we don't allow embedding of iframes, but what you can do is take the link from YouTube, just the actual link to the video, and just stick it in your chapter where you want it, and it will render as a video on the web book. And then in the places where it's not going to be a video, for instance, in print, Pressbooks will insert a placeholder. The one thing to know is that you can't just embed from any old video site. There are like pretty major sites that have been whitelisted that we trust. But it is, things like YouTube, things like Vimeo, et cetera, you can.
If I were creating a book and I wanted videos in the ebook but not in the print book, what would I do? Would I need two files, or would I replace it with a photograph? What would I do?
The easiest thing would be to have two bookshelves and do it differently. One thing you could do is take the video in and out, like put the video in for one of your exports, delete it and export again for the other one, download that, and then re-export.
Got it. I mean, what tips do you have for authors using Pressbooks for the first time? I know you probably want to push people to your YouTube channel, but like, are there any particular stopping points or problem areas or solutions that you could provide right now quickly in audio format without a demo that would make people relax about using Pressbooks for the first time?
Well, I think there's a couple things that will cut down the learning curve. And one of those things is just working in the interface itself. For instance, if you're already a blogger, you may find it really familiar to just work inside Pressbooks, which I think is the easiest way because you're not going to inherit any bad code from any other files that your manuscript came from originally. So that's the easiest thing. And then just apply a theme and everything should be pretty easy. The second easy thing that you can do is to make sure you start with a clean file. So a lot of authors don't realize that they actually shouldn't spend the time formatting the Word document before putting that document into their design software, whatever that design software happens to be. But if you try to upload a file that you've really heavily tried to design in Word or some other program, that's where you're going to run into some bad code coming in with the actual content. And you'll have to do some cleanup on that. So that's one thing to know. You can see the back end of the code on Pressbooks. So you can see like, oh, here are some tags that may be causing a weird formatting anomaly, but it's easier if you don't have them in the first place. So
Right. So
easiest to start with.
clean up your Word document. Just remove. Do you have to remove all the header tags, or will those import?
The header tags are actually really useful. So if you have like a clean, and I mean unstyled for the most part, Word document, and you just make the chapter headings H1s, then you can even use the one-click Word import. So all you have to do is go to import your Word document, and Pressbooks will automatically, using those H1s, recognize what's a chapter, split it into chapters in the interface, and then, I mean, most of your job is done.
Right. So a lot of times we have this workflow. So we write the manuscript, we get it edited, we get track changes back from the editor, we incorporate those, and then we're ready to put it into formatting. And so when you're ready to put it into formatting, you might have those chapter heads showing as, what does it say in Word? Does it say H1 header or chapter header or something? It's all the same, really, I think.
Actually, Word has two menus, and there's one that's the formatting menu, which is what most people think is the header menu, but it isn't. There's another menu, the styles menu, that I sometimes have to go to help on Word to figure out where it is and whatever edition of Word I have at the time. But there is a styles menu where you can make chapter headings H1s.
Let me just check that out right now. So I'm in Microsoft Word, and I'm in the styles pane, which for me, it's up in the upper right hand corner. So I'm looking at the styles pane, and I see heading 1, heading 2, title, subtitle, emphasis. Let me just get kind of geeky here and talk about the emphasis and the strong, right? Is it better to use the emphasis style, or use the bold and italics within the program if you're going to do like PDF and ebook?
I would suggest doing it in the program. I would
Mhm.
suggest saving all of that type of formatting for once you're in your formatting platform, whatever that happens to be. Because
Mhm.
again, when you do that in a different software, that will add different code that's going to come in and
Mhm.
potentially cause problems with the different software.
Right. So if you have, like, I've worked with a bunch of authors who have quotes or different formatting for text messages now. Text messages are suddenly a big part of both fiction and nonfiction books and other formatting. You might want to use a couple of asterisks or something other than a italic style or a bold style in your Word document so that you can find them.
Well, I mean, again, I think things like italic and bold will probably translate when you pull them into the
Oh,
system. But
good.
in general, I want to discourage the use of all kinds of formatting on the
Okay.
Word side. Does that make sense? So in general, it's better not to format something until you're actually in a formatting software. But you could, for instance, if you left those unformatted, you could just use the pull quotes and make them pull quotes in Pressbooks rather than having them trying to do something fancy with them in Word, which has some limitations, of course.
Got it. Good. Anything else geeky with that we should know about Pressbooks?
You know, I'll mention this one feature. We're working right now to add even more user-friendly theme options to all of our themes. And so we've done that with about 5 themes so far. And you can go in and now you can customize more parts of your book styling than you used to be able to a few months ago. You know, you wanted to customize some aspect, your running head, for instance, you would have to go into the CSS to do that. And that's still true on some of our themes, but on a few of them, we've added these new theme options that surface those things you may want to change for the user without them having to dig into the code. So that will become more typical throughout our themes. But in the meantime, there are certain themes that are easier. So Clark and Asimov, if you're a beginner in Pressbooks, are the two that I recommend. If you're not wanting to get involved in your code at all, but you have like, I want to make some minor customizations, those are the two that I recommend right now. And we'll have more soon.
Gosh, okay. So you have 20 themes. I thought there were more. I mean, that's plenty. So now you're going to be able to customize them without going into the CSS.
Exactly. And we did used to have more in theory, but what they were variations. So the
Got it.
color might have been different between, like, there were 3 or 4 versions with different colors or something. But now what we've done is once we add this new feature to all the themes, you can create that same variation in the theme options.
Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah, because I think I chose the color version of a theme for my wine country guide, actually. Yeah, and I was wondering, well, if I ever printed this, I would have to make it black and white, or it would just print as black and white.
You know, you could, I think, or at least I've used some press books and printed them through Ingram Spark where there's some sort of color in them in the interior file. And as long as you're willing to pay for a color interior, it's nothing on Pressbooks is stopping you from doing that, but there is the cost of having a
Yeah,
color interior.
so expensive. It really is. I wouldn't recommend it for most books. If you can get away with grayscale, that would be awesome because it is a very expensive way to go. What if author needs extra help with their Pressbooks file? Do you have a support system we can contact?
We do have support, and that's support at pressbooks.com. The one thing I will note is that we don't offer formatting support, so we will not do the formatting for you. We don't have a service where we provide that. Pressbooks is a DIY platform, so it's all up to you. And generally, if you're looking for a book design, a Pressbooks will do everything for you.
I seem to remember that there used to be a $300 upgrade that you could ask for help with, or
You know, I think years and years ago, maybe back when we first started, we did offer custom
Mhm.
support for that. We no longer offer that. So Pressbooks is a completely DIY software. And that's
Okay.
something to really keep in mind. If you're not a DIY type, this is probably not the right platform for you.
Right. Or if you're just learning WordPress, actually, it would be an awesome way to just learn WordPress and to get braver about blogging as well. I noticed too, I think you have some enterprise level services. Is that right?
We do. We do have plans for universities, among others, and often universities, what those plans are standalone Pressbooks networks. So imagine your very own Pressbooks.com, but for your university. And with that, you get your own homepage, you get control over your catalog to just feature the books that your program, your publishing program has produced, et cetera. And then those come with some very educational specific features as well. For small presses and, smaller publishing houses, I would probably recommend that they use pressbooks.com simply because the biggest differentiators are a lot of the educational features as well as the standalone network. So if you don't need those two things, I would probably point you to pressbooks.com for the individual upgrades.
Yeah, and you know what? It makes total sense too, because I have my little publishing company, Misadventures Media, so I could go in and tinker with everybody's books while everybody is tinkering with their own books, doing last minute editing and all that, and then I could fill in the copyright page and the ISBN and go through and edit and all of that. You should either have it edited in Word or before you upload it, or ask your editor to just go in there and edit it. I have done that. I have an editor that I really trust, and I just said, go for it. Change anything, because I really trust you, and I don't have the time to do it. That's why I'm paying you the big bucks. So, Liz, what is your job at Pressbooks exactly? I know you're on the YouTube channel. I've met you at a conference. What else do you do there?
I'm the director of marketing and sales. So, and actually we're a really small team, so that's a bit of a new position for me. I've been doing marketing with Pressbooks for 4 years now, but in a more part-time capacity. So just as of a few months ago, I am now full-time in that position. And just everything from, the announcements you might get to the promotions you might get to, talking with people who might want an enterprise instance of Pressbooks, talking at conferences, thinking about, website redesigns, anything that has to do with marketing or sales basically falls under.
Great. And speaking of promotions, you have a promotion for my listeners.
Yes, we do. So if you go to Pressbooks and you upgrade with the code AuthorFriendly, that's all one word, caps, that will get you 25% off any Pressbooks upgrade. So that could be the ebook or the PDF upgrade.
Or both.
Right, exactly.
Get it all. You're going to want it all. And then just to close, do you have a single thought or tip for authors that would make them better publishers?
I do. What I always tell people is to spend the money on their indie book, to spend that on the editing and the cover design. Those are the two markers of quality, in my opinion. And I think those are the most noticeable aspects that separate a professional from an amateur in terms of writing. And so I recommend spending the money there. And that's one of the things Pressbooks can help you with, is really saving you the money you might otherwise spend on manually getting your book formatted, manually having some ebook development done to it. All of that can be very costly. And I would put that budget into the editing and the cover design.
I will second that wholeheartedly. Thank you, Liz Mays, for being on the Author Friendly podcast. I'll see you at the next conference.
Fantastic. Thanks for having me, Carla.
So that's it for now. I hope you'll listen in on the next episode of the Author Friendly podcast. You can find the show notes at www.authorfriendly.com, and you'll also find links to places you can find me on the socials. Also, free resources like my Consumer's Guide for Self-Publishers with reviews of all the tools, services, and products you'll hear about on this podcast. And hey, if you like the podcast, I'd appreciate a quick or a detailed review on iTunes or Stitcher. It helps a lot to float the podcast to the top so more authors can find it. All that and more on authorfriendly.com, and a preview of what you'll hear next week too. Signing off till then, thanks for listening.